Hi, welcome to Dice Control Dojo. I'm Phil and I practice every day and share my tips so we can all get better at the casino. Join me today where we're talking about fixing stuff, but what do you do when you're on the table versus at home? I know we highlighted that a little bit, but I wanted to get into deep detail on how you fix a problem. We went through this whole series, whether you're looking in the air or how it lands or what the dice does. I'm trying to say, okay, you have a problem. Maybe you have multiple problems. How do you fix it? Let's first talk about at the table. Okay, so you're at the table and you're sitting here and your dice isn't going well. So what do? I am a firm believer of relying on yourself and getting back to basics. We talk about you don't play golf for a while, then you're going out and you hit a bucket of balls, and then you get onto the golf course and things are not going well. But do you overcorrect every single time, or are you sitting there going, okay, let me just get back to what I know? If you're playing for a long time on a golf course, you get to an ability that you can fix a little bit of what you're doing and hopefully correct your issue, or you recognize what that issue is and fix it. It's the same thing in craps. Okay, so if you're having throwing at the table and you're having an issue, right, and you're like, okay, that was a really good throw. I even threw on axis. It sat nice, but anyway, I had a good practice this morning. So say it was one was off a little bit, and you're consistently getting that on the first couple throws. Once again, when you're at a table, we'll talk about throwing opening throws, maybe burn in one round just to get used to the table, knowing what height it is and that. But let's say you're in the middle of a roll and you're consistently, they're going to the left, they're going to the left, they're going to the right, or one's higher than the other. What do you do at that time? Don't overthink it. You got to get back to basics. And I know I say this all the time, but I'm trying to stress how important it is to not overcorrect, because when you overcorrect is when that darn seven shows up. And it happens to me all the time. I'll throw a short one, and then I'm like, okay, I got to get it to the back wall, right? I got to get it to the back wall. So in my brain, all I'm thinking is I got to throw it harder. I got to throw it harder. I got to throw it harder. And then I dead cat, or I throw it and it goes all over. Now you're in a random situation. It's not going to do you any good. So I'm trying to have this video so I can look back at it when I'm editing it and when I'm going back at it right before I go to Vegas, that I say to myself, don't think at the table. Don't try and make major corrections. If you're way off, okay, say I threw a horrible throw and my next throw is coming up, okay? What do I have to do? Rely on your 10,000 throws. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, hey, I'm not as crazy. I'm not doing deliberate, dedicated practice like he's doing every day. I've thrown a few times before I go. And so, I can't rely on that because your muscle memory and your mental memory is not going to be there. Okay, that's fine. How about just getting back to what you know when you throw? This is what you know. This is how you've been practicing it. Don't overthink it. My perfect example of this is my trusty craps crew. I have one friend who will remain nameless that he'll be throwing fine. Everything's going fine, but maybe it's just not going perfect the way he wants to throw. So this is what happens. He gets up to the table, having the same type of coaching and mentoring that I have, doing the same amount of practice. Yeah, you know who we are. And then all of a sudden, we're all watching it, and this is his throw. And we're like, what did you do? Why'd you throw it in the corner? And then he's like, oh, I'm changing it up. I want I wasn't feeling it. So I'm trying to find a new place. Not in the middle of a throw. You don't now just start throwing into the corner. And guess what? Just perfect example, Mr. Craps crew. It was a 5-2-7 out because he changed it up too much. That's not what we're looking for. Hey, if I'm sitting here at the table and they said, "Hey Phil, that those landed funny," okay, I take their advice, but then I just got to come back to, okay, don't think. I've done my 10,000 hours. I've done my muscle memory. I've done my mental memory. Trust in it. Even if you've only done it for like a week before you go, trust that you know what you're doing. And don't overthink it. Just get back to the basics, right? Just get back to doing everything that you know. Keep that mantra, right? Your positivity, very important. When you're sitting there thinking about that the dice are off and I got to overthrow it or underthrow it, too much mental. Get back to visualizing the perfect throw, put that away, and get back to basics. So when you throw it, you're not like sitting there going, okay, one was higher than the other. I need to do this. No, just get back to this is what I'm doing. Now, with that one being higher, I didn't have my dice completely, the pressure wasn't right on my fingers. And I know that. So I'll think, okay, get back to basics. So my next throw, I'll just make sure my ledge is nice and I'm relaxed. And so that's a little minor adjustment, a little like, okay, my mantra didn't work 100%, so get back to it and make an adjustment, a wee adjustment. I'm not talking about throwing in the corner. I'm not talking about changing your sets. I'm not talking about changing your arm throw. Your muscles know what to do. Your brain knows what to do, so do it. But when you're at the table at home, okay, and I'm practicing my 10, my 10, not my 9 spots, my 1, my 2, my 3, my 4, if I'm seeing the same thing wrong over and over again that day, I'm marking that down. I'm seeing an inconsistent thing. I'm working through my practices, but if I'm seeing something constantly bad, and then I'm throwing my 36 throws like I do, I mark it down. So this is that deliberate practice, okay? So yesterday, my target was off, right? So today's practice this morning, instead of doing my 9 throws to go like that, I just simply put my beanbag down, and I threw maybe 25 throws to make sure I threw it in the same target, and it was slow. I needed to slow down my throw. It was too bouncy. It was too sporadic. So today's deliberate practice this morning, because I missed it 3 times in a row, and I'm like, okay, we're getting closer to Vegas. I got to make sure I'm hitting the target I'm looking at. What's going on with that? So I went back to basics. I got through my warm-ups and that, but then I've been focusing mainly on hitting this target over and over again. And that was my practice for the day. And then my 36 throw, I ended up a 9.5 SRR on my 36 throws. But my main problem was dice movement after the throw. They weren't consistently up, and down. So tomorrow's day, we'll be talking about, I'll be trying to get my muscle memory back in gear. And it's a deliberate practice. I may focus more on my upper body tomorrow. And although I try and run through my 1 hour practice exactly, I have to adapt each day to work on different things. So tomorrow's day will be consistently working on upper body to make sure my thumb is going and my fingers are not releasing. It's centrifugal force, and it's just a constant run like this. That's tomorrow's practice. So when you're at the table, no major changes. You got to stick to your guns, right? Get back to basics. Don't think about it. It's a visualization. It's work on your breathing, you're relaxing, and then just making sure your throw is the same each time. Visualize it and work it. When you're home, that's when you get into the weeds. That's when you look at each and you criticize yourself. You look at that, you analyze, you videotape, you watch it back, you say, ooh, tomorrow I got to work on my speed. I'm constantly overthrowing, or my arm isn't doing the same thing each time. Do you notice that? Can you look at your arm, either slow motion or speed it up and videotape yourself 12 times? Is the arm doing the same thing each time? Tomorrow, my practice will be trying to make sure that this arm speed is going the same way I want, with the right loft and the right speed, so that I'm not overthrowing and or overspinning because I'm trying to compensate for my arm not doing the same thing. I'm getting close to Vegas. I can't afford to make these big mistakes. I got to start tweaking those little things so I'm ready to go. It's kind of like Tiger Woods in a sand trap, right? Before the game, I watched him uh, practice, and he's sitting there hitting 50, 60 shots in the sand trap over and over and over and over. He's getting his muscle memory in check right before the game. But when he goes to the big game and he's on the course, he's not going to overcorrect everything. He's just going to rely on what his million of hours for practice. And that's what you need to do. Take your practice at home and tweak it and play with it and practice it and make decisions. But when you're at the table, you need to relax and rely on exactly what got you there. All right. Tomorrow, I had some very good information that I forgot to share with everybody about our analysis because of me, and I apologize, but I'll have an update tomorrow on our analysis, one angle I never even thought of. So join me tomorrow, and as always, the best betting strategy is to practice 10,000 hours and rely on your muscle memory and mental memory. And hope to see you at the casino.